Hello everyone and welcome back. I was actually planning on making this video before the new comics came out, so I would be able to talk about the books from the week before. But on Sunday, my dog died, and that was a very tough thing for all of us here and for my family. We had that dog for 18 years, so she was very old, and yeah, it obviously had to happen, but it still hurts. It hurt a lot. Now, we had Bonnie since she was a puppy, so a few months old actually, but she was a mixed breed. She was a gift they gave her. She was a gift from my dad's therapist, who actually owned a labrador dog and a pug, and so she's a mix of both. And Yeah, that was very tough. The other reason why I didn't make a video earlier was because I didn't have a lot of time. I'm actually dealing with some health issues, which I don't think they're very serious. I suffer blackouts every now and then. So now we're just gonna. So I was already diagnosed with like a little bit of a problem in my brain where I kind of short circuit, and I would, at least that's what they say, they provoke the blackouts, but we're out like 10 years ago or something like that. So now we're going for a new diagnostic, a much fuller diagnostic, which is good to find out what I have. But yeah, I've been going through a battery of tests at the hospital, so that's taking a bit of time. That it doesn't necessarily worry me too much, but it's good to have a good medical opinion. But I'm here, and thank you to all of you who said such nice words when I announced that my dog died on Twitter. I wouldn't have done it on Twitter, but it's always good to try to let things get out. Find someone to give you support or whatever. Just let it out, not keep it. So thank you everyone for those of you who said kind words. So let's go to some more happy news. So this coming April, it would be my 5th year as a YouTuber. Actually, I actually joined YouTube way back in 2007 or 9, something like that. But I've been doing five years of doing videos. Excuse me. So to celebrate the 5th year, this coming 5th year, I will be posting random videos, reposting random videos from the past 5 years, as sort of like the best videos, the highlights of my 5 years. So I already started with my first video a while back. Excuse me. And I believe I just posted one yesterday, which is the review of All-Star Superman number 7, which was part of the Sleepy Reader helmed community review of All-Star Superman. I actually get to do the review for number 7. So I reposted that on Twitter, so you might want to check it out. So yeah, my channel, 5 years, not a very big channel, doesn't have a lot of subscribers, doesn't have a lot of views, and as I've mentioned before in past videos, I never really I'm not doing this for that. I'm just doing it because I enjoy being part of a community, sharing my thoughts on books, the comics that I read, and other comic book related things as well. And sometimes I do go outside of comics as well. Um, uh, but it's more about the enjoyment of it. So even if I had one subscriber, I would still be doing the videos. I love it so much. So I actually gotten a few new subscribers. I usually sub back to those who do subscribe to me. If I haven't subscribed to you, that's because I hardly use my computer these days. I'm more into the my iPad. So I hardly turn on this laptop here. But after I finish doing this video, I'll probably sub you while I load it up. So on to the main feature of the video. So I've gotten a whole bunch of books I want to talk about, but I won't be doing it in this video. I'm actually gonna just review two, well, not two books, two series, two arcs actually, which is quite highly unusual for me to review arcs. But since I've been catching up on books, I'm actually getting, if I can, get arcs. Or actually, the Supergirl would be an arc. The Superman book, the current story, which was a two-part story, so I got the two parts, so I'm going to talk about that. I will also show what else I got. So anyways, for this week, I actually got Superman number 41. I also got the Brave and the Bold Batman and Wonder Woman number 1, which I won't be talking about in this video, so it doesn't get too long. As a back issue, I got actually comics 988. So hopefully I will get the entire Oz Effect arc and do a full review of that arc once I get all the books. And that's it. So I will start with the review of Supergirl because it's the longer one. So Supergirl number 15, 16, 17, and 18 is the arc called Plain Sight. Plain Sight? Oh, yeah, I believe so. It's called Plain Sight. Plain Sight. Right. So Plain Sight. So where I left off with Supergirl before my unfortunate break, it seems someone, the DEO, and its new head, Mr. Bones, sort of revealed to the world that Supergirl's father, who way back in the first arc attacked National City, was captive somewhere inside the DEO, and people were pretty angry. So throughout this arc, Supergirl has to deal with several things. First up, the fact that she can really do her Supergirl thing. Girl can become Supergirl without putting herself at risk of the DEO trying to capture her. She ends up facing a bunch of villains that were sent out to her to fight her, to bring her out. All of them manipulated by Mr. Bones. Who, if you don't know who Mr. Bones is, he, before the New 52, was the head of the DEO, and before that was actually a villain who fought Infinity Inc. Back in the 80s. Created by Roy Thomas and I believe Todd McFarlane. I think he was drawing the book back then. So he sort of reformed and became head of the EO. And interestingly enough, that part of his background is actually part of Rebirth as well. So in fact, you have a very different artist doing the. You actually have. Yeah, the first three parts are done by one artist. The final part is done by a different artist, which I mean, the art isn't bad, of course, but I did find a little problem here, which is with this character, which is supposed to be Dr. Veritas, who showed up back in the New 52, created by Scott Lobdell when he took over Superman. Had a few presents here and there. She's been showing up a lot in Supergirl, but what bothered me is that the character is off design. Like, I didn't know it was her until she was mentioned, because the character does have a different look, a different design. Let me see. Give me a second. Yeah, so this is like the best image I have at hand. So this is more of her design, as she was originally designed by back when she showed up earlier in the Superman books, and this design sort of took me out because it was different. Anyway, so the arc, I found it was interesting because it sort of deals with Supergirl thinking she wasn't able to do a lot of things because, first off, that the DU is after her. The fact that the Danvers don't want her to go out and risk put herself at risk. Then there's that part of her being Kara Danvers that she at times feels is less important than being Supergirl, and that it's a distraction. And that she feels that as Kara, she can't really do much to help people as much as she can do being Supergirl. But by the end, she actually does learn that Kara Danvers is also important, and that Supergirl isn't required to answer every emergency that happens. So I like that. It sort of goes that every arc, or most arcs, like the first one, sort of have a little moments where the character actually learns something that helps her grow as a character. We also kind of get a few nods to some past Superman stories, like the appearance of Strange Visitor, which is a character from way back in the 90s and early 2000s. Actually, it does go back to like around 1998 when the character Sharon Vance showed up during a story arc celebrating Superman's, I want to say, 50th anniversary back in 98. Then she became Strange Visitor, and her death and the circumstances of her death, because she sort of brought back, she's like an energy being, but she sacrificed herself during the Our Worlds at War crossover way back in 2001, I believe it was, or 2002, early 2000s. I hadn't been picking up these ebooks back then. I was more into like Marvel, so I missed like the whole crossover thing there. But it's confirmed that that event actually happened in the DC universe. So I sort of, modifying or adding things from before that might not have been true during Flashpoint. Um, so I really like the. I actually really enjoy the Supergirl book. Like, this is like the first book I picked up when I returned it and pick up, the other Superman books. Mainly because I should have picked up like the previous issue of Superman, but I didn't. Because for example, Action Comics it has a story going, so I didn't really want to pick it up in the middle. I probably won't be picking up Action Comics like regularly until Action Comics 1000 and the Bendis, excuse me, and the Bendis stuff. But yeah, I really like this arc. Too bad that the series got cancelled. I know there's some fans out there as well. That book's been cancelled too. And so the whole Bendis era is coming. So some people are really worried as to what might happen to some of these characters, particularly John. Like I said in my last video, I don't think they're gonna change too much, but they're definitely going to. There's definitely change going on at DC. Same thing happened with the Justice League books, the Teen Titans and the Titans books. They're also kind of going away. So June's gonna be an interesting month. The spring summer is gonna be interesting as to where DC is going now with their line, which is also curious because Marvel is also doing changes starting in May as well. So that I find that very, very curious as to what's going on and why changes in both companies. Finally, Superman number 40 and 41, The Last Days Part 1 and Part 2. This is written by James Robinson. We have two different artists during each part. The first one's done by Doc Mankey, and the second one is actually done by Ed Benes. So the story is a pretty simple one. Well, simple in its plot, not so simple in its story. So Superman and John go to a planet that's about to be destroyed, similar to the way Krypton was destroyed. So they decided to go and see if they could help the population, escape the planet. As help them try to do something to try to save as many inhabitants as they could. But surprisingly, they encountered a population. They encountered certain resistance because the planet had become sort of like super religious, if it's so they're really run by religion, and science has no actual place. So basically this is the will of our God, and we will take it. Thank you for your help, but you're not gonna go against what our God has, what our God has brought upon us. So the whole story does become a bit of a discussion between science and religion. They are actually rescued by the only scientist left in on the planet. But it does put the idea that, hey, well, the scientist actually says, I can't help my people, you know but in a similar way as Superman sort of escaped Krypton, the scientist put his these eggs, from his wife, who was actually killed by all these fanatics, if you will. I wouldn't consider them fanatics, but they do seem kind of certain religious fanatism that, let's destroy anything that has to do with science. So he saved the eggs. They're fertilized, ready to go to some other planet and to survive and perpetuate, in a way, his culture and their species as well, because everyone was going to die, to be blown up. So at least one survivor, or how many survivors come out of those eggs. So it's interesting, as you don't try to impose people your ideas. It's you yeah, it sort of discusses the idea of, okay, you've got your religious beliefs, but don't you think that you deserve to live? That maybe your God, as Superman says, brought me here to help you. And that idea sort of, it didn't convince, but they had Superman and John trapped. They sort of nullify their powers, but at the end they decided to let them free, and they pretty much accepted their fate. Superman finally had to accept that as well, but he hoped he could save some. He hoped. That's another theme here, which is hope. So it's very interesting in the sort of philosophical ideas presented, the idea of science versus religion. And even the scientist said something very interesting, which is, he believes in science, but he also believes in his deity, in his people's deity. That there's nothing really wrong of having both religion and science in your life. Which, in a way, at least to me, that is some idea I do agree with, because science answers a lot of questions, and I just a discussion I usually have in that attempt, which is religion was created to sort of explain unexplainable phenomenon back, when there wasn't any sort of science, when we were very primitive. But as science, reveals more and more about, our origins, for example, or the origin of the universe, the more you dig into all this, the more questions sort of start coming out. So at some point, at least to me, it makes me sort of think that at least there is some sort of idea that there is a God, because a lot of these things may happen, you know, happen like the Big Bang, but what was there before the Big Bang? What was there before the universe? How come, Earth, for example, it's an accident that we exist, or was it something else? So I usually think about all of these things between science and religion, and I believe, of course, in science, and but there are but there are certain things I have no answers for, and even scientists have no answers for. As they keep on digging, you start peeling more stuff away, and there's more and more and more and more that I don't know what's behind all of that. So yeah, you can have religion and you can have science. Einstein, for example, was very religious, or was religious, even though he was a scientist. I mean, when he discovered, or accidentally discovered, quantum mechanics, he sort of discarded that thing because he said, God didn't, throw dice, or whatever the quote is. He didn't believe that in the microscopic world, in the subatomic world, there would be so much chaos when in the macro universe, here in the here and now, here right now, as matter, as the universe seems so, and its nature itself seems so organized, that there would be so much chaos, beneath all of that, beneath those molecules. So like I said, I'm sort of going away to a different discussion here, but it does open certain ideas, at least in this story, about how science and I have to you can believe in science, you can believe in religion, your own faith, but at the same time there's a place for both of them. So I find that interesting. Also, what I find interesting in this story is that it sort of, thinking about it, reminds me of the things, or the sort of stories that sometimes will pop up in Superman books from time to time in the 70s, where Superman sort of faces situations that sometimes was more about challenging his own way of doing things, where his powers wouldn't help him solving a problem. And I'll probably review one story from 1978 that sort of puts question sort of some of the things that Superman believes in. So yeah, I really like this cute little story. I mean, it does make you think a lot of things. So I am running late, and so it's almost 30 minutes of video. So I will leave it here. I'll try to do another video covering during the week, covering the books that I missed, so we could all get caught up on all of that, and be able to talk about the new stuff that I will get next week, and I have a bunch of books to talk about. So as always, until next time, keep smiling.